What is up, everybody? Y'all know what
Yes,
today
yes,
is.
yes.
I don't know. I don't know. Just in case you do not know,
Just in
just
case.
in case, what's going on, fam? You do not know what today is. It is Tuesday. On Tuesdays, we're all about
On Tuesdays, we're all about giving you all
live.
principles, concepts, yes, on a live
Yes.
for marriedpreneurs to help you build successfully.
Okay, with that being said, for those of you who don't know who we are, let's jump into this, shall we?
What's up?
What's
I'm
going
Orel
on?
Buckley.
I am Sway Buckley.
Yes, and we are Marriedpreneur Life Strategists.
Yes, and we are coaches for faith based married entrepreneurs, business coaches, those who are seeking to launch, grow, and scale your businesses and to build legacies and do that peaceably, purposefully, and profitably in sync. Now, here's the thing real quick disclaimer that we like to give out when we come on these lives on Tuesdays, especially because sometimes it may be your first time with us. And if that's the case, we want to make sure that you are all the way welcome and that you get the whole spiel on the different types, the primary types of married entrepreneurs, because you'll likely find that you and your spouse are in one of these categories, or maybe you're transitioning from one to the other. It does not matter either way. As legacy builders, you are here and you are welcome. With that being said, the very first type of marriedpreneur type that we want to make sure that you're aware of are the spousalpreneurs. Spousalpreneurs are where one spouse is building the business and the other spouse is supporting the business. And then we have
the indiepreneur. This is
yes,
where the two of you are building individual businesses. And so that is the indiepreneur. In fact, if you're an indiepreneur, drop an I.
yes.
If you're a spousalpreneur, drop an S.
How about that? And the third type we want to make sure that you all are really aware of is the couplepreneur, marriedpreneur types. Now, that is where both spouses are working in the business, the same business together. Okay, now if you're a couplepreneur, you can drop a C in there. Let us know who you are, where you are, what you're doing, what you're building, what you're talking about. We want to know. Let the people know. We want to know. Shout you out right here as well. Okay. With that being said, a little bit about us. We are couplepreneurs and indiepreneurs.
That's right. We've been all three at different points, but
today,
we are a couple and indiepreneurs. That's right.
In this season, you should say, not just today, because we're not like bouncing like that.
I was being funny.
But they don't know.
We're not flipping like
y'all
that.
Y'all don't know, right? You don't know, so we got to be straight up with it. Okay, so your business.
Yep. Commercial real estate consultant and co-owner of a real estate investment company, helping first-time home buyers to buy their first homes like investors.
Now, for my business, I run a creative arts staffing firm, and I run a consultancy as well for those who are in that business. So it's kind of combined together. And of course, together we run Marriedpreneur Life Consulting. Okay, with that being said, I think we should dive into it. We did say earlier that every Tuesday we come on sharing tips and insights that bring transformation to your business as you're working together, whether you're a spousal, couple, or indiepreneurs. Okay, last week was a part one. In case you missed part one, it's on the feed, but we were really talking about tealing and toiling.
Yep, we're talking about the tealing and toiling concept, and we explained and expounded on the tealing, where you are all about cultivating and preparing your ground.
But first, before we go into that,
sure,
want to make sure that we're going to do a different twist. Remember, we were talking about that, the harvest. I don't know if it has it in here, but I know we're a couple of different platforms. But over here on one of the platforms has biblical principles for business growth, and something that we've written down. It may be in the header somewhere. Oh, on Instagram it is. There's no harvest without these two. So oftentimes people talk about, oh, there's, ready for my harvest season. I'm ready for all of the growth that is due me, right? That I've been looking for, that I've been seeking for, right? But oftentimes, if we have been working for it, if we're not seeing it, there's likely a very valid and practical reason that could be fixed. And so the two seasons that must come before harvest season is the season of tealing, as we talked about last week, and the season of toiling. We're going to break both of those down, though, today, because we know not everybody got a chance to watch last week's episode. I don't call it episode, but, live. So with that being said, we'll give some examples of this, because if you all are feeling a bit stagnant in your business, if you're feeling like, okay, well, what do we do next? Okay, we know we have something to offer. We know we got the goods to bring to the people, but what exactly does that look like now? How do we monetize this on a larger scale? How do we launch this either, or grow it, or even scale it, depending on where you are in that? And what we're going to be sharing with you all today, very practically put, brought from biblical principles.
Mm-hmm.
We want to share how these biblical principles can be and should be actually used as we grow our business, as we're all growing businesses, as we are believers in the Bible, and we not just talk about it, but we live it out. But that does not exclude our business either. And so we know there are other couples out there who are also focused in on, of course, marriage, marketplace, called to the marketplace by God, and see that as a type of ministry as well too. And all of these together is a very unique niche out there, and we're okay with that. And so that's who we're talking to. That's who we're talking to when we come live, to encourage and to bring value to you as we're going along. With that being said, before diving into what is required, really required for harvest to even to come forth in these other two areas that we just mentioned, we do want to say this because we do not want to forget at the end. For those of you who are seeking more insight, you're seeking more step-by-step instruction, we want to give you an opportunity to schedule a strategy call, free, totally free strategy call with us, as we can see how we can help you, what you're working on, and to help you to increase what you're doing already, or maybe need to tweak that. And oftentimes what happens is you have these different ideas that God has placed in your heart, but you're just not really sure what to do next with them. You've gotten as far as you can. And that's where coaches and that's where support comes in to increase what you already have been blessed to do. And so if that's the case, and that's you all, you can head over to getsystemsnow.com and getsystemsnow.com. And you can get all the details there to schedule a strategy call, we like to call a meritpreneur strategy call with us. Okay, so with that being said, let's dive into this harvest season, starting with tealing and then toiling from biblical principles. Okay, going into it.
So tealing is ground preparation. Mm-hmm. And when we think about it as merit entrepreneurs, we're thinking about it really as market preparation. And here's what that looks like. It looks like, number one, we're bringing value to our market even before we start selling to our market, and I'll explain that in just a second. But it's bringing value to our market. It's being seen as a resource. It's being seen as a go-to for whatever your said product or service is. And when we bring value to our market, it's much like a farmer who's then preparing his ground to receive seed. So there's, even in a very simplistic way, I think I gave this example before, but when I was working with my grandmother, she would have me with a bucket pulling out stones and rocks and pebbles out of the soil before we start planting seeds in there. Because if we don't, what happens is that all that debris that is uncultivated, unprepared for the seed, if we just go in and start throwing seed in there, like if we go in and start just trying to sell, but we haven't really prepared that way, then what happens is that seed doesn't connect with the soil, and then it doesn't get the benefit of the soil. It doesn't take root. And so when we don't prepare our market by delivering value, which a lot of delivering value, or should I say bringing value in the teal phase, has to do with debunking myths, clearing up misconceptions, explaining concepts. It's preparing the market to receive what it is that you're bringing. But then there's also the preparing of your tools, preparing of your instruments, preparing of your business. And I like to think of this as, if we had 100 people ready to buy today, do we have the wherewithal to support that? Do we have the systems in place? Do we understand the processes? Do we understand workflow and how we're going to lead our market to transformation, lead our market to whatever said desire or guarantee or promise is? If we haven't prepared internally for those things, like the farmer who would be preparing his tractor, preparing his rakes, preparing all of those things, and there's all kinds of steps and processes that they go through. Sometimes there's sharpening of tools, there's oiling of tools, there's making sure that those tools can do what they need to do before leaving the barn, if you will, and going out to the field.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And something else I was thinking of when you were talking about the whole tilling phase. Oftentimes we attempt to market to people who are not called to our market. They are not in our market.
They're just not in our market.
They're not who we are called to bring that solution to the problem.
It's somebody else's market that we're trying to appeal to.
And oftentimes, that in that tealing phase, I've seen this happen so many times where it's easy to overlook this phase because you're like, oh no, let me just help this person. They're all totally different. And so then your messaging becomes diluted and watered down as a result. And then when you hear any of us hear a diluted and watered down message, what do? We do absolutely nothing because it's diluted and watered down and it sounds like water. There's no flavor to it. Well, there's nothing that stands out.
There's no distinction in it. So people can't, it's confusing because it's not distinct.
Well, it's not, I don't even say it's confusing. I just keep scrolling. Like, it's just like, you're not talking to me. You're not even, it doesn't how does this make my life any better? And a lot of this is done in the tealing stage or that tealing season. And so the clearer we get in that stage and not try to push past that, and not push past it, but go around it and not deal with it. What happens is when it comes to actually making offers, when it comes to actually working to grow and to scale in the business, frustration sets in because then you realize the ones that you've been talking to are not really the ones that you're really called to. And that shows up quickly. That shows up very quickly. I would say even at the beginning stage. So that's what I would say for the tealing is really going to be about that nurturing and defining, getting more insight for who you're called to, and then doing that in a way where you're bringing value even at the beginning, like all the way through you're bringing value. And value is going to be based on not what you say is valuable, but what your people say is valuable. Because sometimes we can speak in a way that they are not even understanding what it is that's so valuable about what it is that you have to offer based on if they are problem aware or if they are solution aware, or either one of those. It's going to be a bit different based on how we speak with them.
Yeah. And so when we then look at the second phase about toiling, toiling is not a bad or negative word. It just really means the working of it. So when you think about the toiling, think about the actual working of it. I would even go so far as to say the implementation of the next phase of your bringing value to your market. So you've already done the tealing, you prepared them, and you prepared yourself for them. But then when we get to the toiling side, this is the actual doing side. So this is where the farmer would then go out and then start to drop those seeds. If you ever seen a field and they have like these long channels where there's been tealing that happens. So there's this long ridge line where they're dropping seeds in there. And then because it's already been cultivated, this is what the toiling aspect is. It's not just this part, but it is absolutely this part as well. It's not less than this part. So it's the working of, it's the making offers as marriedpreneurs. This is where you're now making offers to the market you've already started to prepare through delivering value. So you're making offers to that market, and not just any offers. Because you've been tealing, you're making valuable offers. So it's value all the way through. So it is not value on just the front end, but it's also value right here in the middle, right? So now you're delivering value by making valuable offers to them. And when we make valuable offers to them, what happens is now we're working through that delivery. So this is where the full-on implementation is happening. You made an offer, i.e. a sale. Now if it's a service or whatever, you're onboarding them, right? There's value even in that onboarding process. You're getting them equipped for whatever it is that they need as they go through your business model, go through your workflow. That's value. And you're delivering it with delivering value with consistency. You're delivering value with consistency. And here's what happens when we have gone through this process. Then there is the harvest that comes in from that. And let me say, I have never seen an apple jump off of a tree from an orchard onto the farmer's table. They have to go out and they have to
harvest right now.
I'm talking about harvest right now. They have to go out and they have to pull that. My point is that's toil too.
It is.
It is the really reaping process that is important too. And so sometimes, and this is what happens in businesses. You've done a great job with the teal. You've done a great job even of making the offer. But now it's time to deliver all the way through and see that client, see that customer through to transformation. And somewhere in there, we drop off. And I think a lot of times for entrepreneurs, it can be so much that we've done to get to this point that if we don't have the proper preparation of our back office, of our system delivery, what happens is we can get a bunch of people in the door and they will buy, but then there's no retention. There's no ability to take them to the next level, to deliver value to them on the next level, because we've dropped off, we failed to see value all the way through to completion. So then there's no referral, there's no upsell, there's no retention. And when we're toiling effectively, because we've tilled effectively, that will translate into harvest, and that will also translate into what every marriedpreneur wants, referrals.
Absolutely. And, this is, I would say, it's a very basic concept because you likely have heard before, but sometimes we don't really see it for the level of simplicity it is. And sometimes we attempt to overcomplicate the process of growth and the process of what needs to be done and our expectations in doing that. Because if we're expecting something to happen with less elbow grease, what's going to happen is disappointment, frustration. And oftentimes at that point, many give up, many sit down. And I think it's important to understand this level of this. I really look at it like a cycle. It's not a linear process. It is very cyclical, because although we're saying, okay, till season and then toil season, well, guess what? Then you do it again. Like you continue. It's like an ongoing process with both of these. And one of the factors I would say that we did not mention, but it's very important, especially for us as biblical people here on the earth, and who are serious about that, we have to remember that although the world doesn't mention this, the one factor that makes a difference for us and how we respond is this. So what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, it's the trusting God process, because just because we have done tealing and just because we've done toiling, it's still for us as marriedpreneurs in business who are biblically minded. We have to understand that we still have to trust God with it all, because unless He sends the rain, it doesn't matter. And so this is so important, because as marriedpreneurs, and we hear this statement a lot. I want to challenge this statement today. A lot of times it's the statement of trust the process, but I want to push back on that a little bit and say, as biblically minded marriedpreneurs, we don't trust processes. We trust God in the process. And that's important. And if we really understand it, then we trust the God of the process. Because what happens is we recognize, and this can happen. We can do all the right steps, do all the right things, and it seems like it's not working. It appears initially like it's not working, and then we get frustrated. And when we get frustrated, there is a point in frustration where we can then move into angst and anxiety and start trying to work things on our own. And that's where we get into manipulation and all kinds of other things. We don't want to do that. We want to continue to be people who are trusting God by faith, recognizing that our life and our business and everything that He's called for us to do, all of that is, all of us are in His hands. And if we really believe that, then we can work the process faithfully. Doesn't mean that we don't feel points of frustration, but we refuse to not trust God. In other words, we're going to say, we're going to keep doing what we're supposed to do, keep working the teal and the toil phases, and we're just going to believe God. And it happened to me in business. I'll just tell you, when I was in investment sales, working in the banking world, and I was doing all the stuff that I was trained to do, implementing all the A's plus B's, X's and O's that I was supposed to do. And I had a point where it was several months, and you're talking about a high pressure sales environment where you have to hit your goals, or you got long meetings about why you're not hitting your goals. And so there's all kinds of stuff that comes with that. And I was doing it, and it seemed like nothing happened. And then one day, not just one day, but there was a point in that lull where it didn't seem like anything was converting, where I got an email, a reply from an email I sent 6 months ago. I got a return phone call from a phone call I made 60 days ago. But I thought the person and I'm talking about a series of follow-ups. And they finally replied back to me, and it seemed like they all came in at once. And next thing you know, now here I am trying to keep up with the harvest. That happens in business. Business, to what Sway just said, is cyclical. And so we have to understand that that's going to happen. And there's a part in the tealing and the toiling process that we don't control. And that part is the rainfall.
Listen, yes, we cannot control that part.
So I want to say, stay encouraged and faithful and consistent in your tealing and your toiling. And there is a point where the harvest will break.
It will break. It will break. It does break. And the thing is, we're talking to married entrepreneurs who are called to the marketplace. And so if God has called you to a place, he's called you for a reason, and to a people within that place. And so it's on us to do the process, to do and to be faithful in the tilling, to be faithful in the toiling, to be faithful what we're called to do, right? Because that's all that we can be held responsible for, is to do what we're called to do. And it does work. It will, and he will send the rain in his time. He will do that, but we have to be found faithful in that as well too. And making sure we continue to grow. We continue to sharpen our seasons and our systems and our strategies and our tools. We continue to do these things, because as the doors begin to open, as they begin to, as even some doors close, other doors open, even larger doors open, but being prepared and being in position for that is key, because we have to be found faithful. And not just faithful in doing the thing as far as building out the business, but even more importantly, faithful in trusting God through the process, trusting him each day in our consistency, trusting him when we're like, okay, I know what to do. I'm going to do this because this is what I'm called to do. Not because it's like I'm looking at somebody else. Oh, let me go do what they're doing. Oh, let me go. And that just brings frustration, because you may not be called to be doing what they're doing in the way that they're doing it. You about to say something?
That's spot on.
Oh, that was spot on?
Yeah.
So with that being said, we're going to head on out. But we wanted to just bring this in this week to encourage you all with this, the whole, harvest season, and understanding what's really required that, and not getting so caught up in, yes, we thank God for that. We thank God for the harvest. But there is a personal responsibility that comes before that happens. And that's that tilling and the toiling.
Yeah, I was going to say this, God has called you to the marketplace to serve and to represent him in the marketplace, in business. You weren't called to a hobby. So what does that mean then? That means that he's not calling you to failure. That means he's calling you to faithfulness. And there's a whole road we can go down with that we won't right now, but that's the point I want to make. If you're indeed, God has entrusted you with this business, entrusted you with this idea, entrusted you with this ability, this expertise, entrusted you to be able to go out and serve people well, the people in your market well. You're not trying to dominate the globe. You're trying to hold down your space and hold down your market, right? Yeah. So if that's the case, you have not been called to a hobby where, it's just a hobby, take it or leave it. You've been called to something functional, and to be faithful in that function.
Yeah. So with that being said, God bless y'all. Also, we talked about the till season and the toil season. Those are high level, I guess I would say high view pictures of this whole process, even when it comes to marketing, when it comes to implementing marketing systems and strategies into your business. And if you're like, okay, we need some more insight on what that can look like or should look like in a practical sense, we actually have created for those emerging entrepreneurs that you're starting and you're wanting to grow, you're launching, you've already launched, but you're looking to grow more. Like, what are the next steps? What does this even look like? We have it created just for you, a marketing map for marriedpreneurs. And so if you'd like for us to send that to you, it's totally free. Just put systems in the comments and we'll get that over to you. So at least you can see this process of, okay, this is, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, so on and so forth. And so you'll know exactly where you should be focusing once you finish the previous step, and then what that looks like. And okay, now we go to the next step. Now we go to the next step. And then for those of you who are like, we want some step-by-step walkthrough, we do have that opportunity for you too, for a strategy call, totally free strategy call. You can go to getsystemsnow.com, getsystemsnow.com, and we can walk you through that as well with your business, with your goals, walking you all through that together, because it's important to understand working in business, whether you're starting with the idea or you already have launched, understanding the importance of having a strategy is key. And that's our sweet spot. That's just our jam right there. Our sweet spot for faith-based married entrepreneurs, implementing that customized strategy that makes sense for your business and for your family. That's it. Okay, so if that's for you all, you can get type systems in the comments. We'll get that map over to you, that marketing map. And then if you're like, okay, let's get some walkthrough step by step so you can see how to bring some increase and get clarity in our business literally within like a week's time frame, you can do that over at getsystemsnow.com. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one, and we will look forward to seeing you next week. Until next time. Oh, we did that in unison. Look at that.
Who's going to do the next part?
You do the next part.
Keep living.
Purposefully.
Powerfully.
And profitably. And sync. All right. Peace out, y'all. We really do need to get some outro music.